Hi, Dr. Caxno Perry. Thank you for taking the time to listen and to watch this video. And as I say, like it and subscribe. You're going to get a little more information over the next few weeks, and you can look at past episodes. Even more importantly, I have started a podcast, and you can go to the podcast, Dr. Caxton's Timeless Truths in Medicine and Marriage. Dr. Caxton Perry's Timeless Truths in Medicine and Marriage. We want to talk about ivermectin briefly. I just listened to the interview with Dr. Hector Cavallo in Buenos, Argentina. Awesome physician. He's a professor of internal medicine and one of the pioneers on the ivermectin studies and the protocols that were done to show us exactly what needs to be done with respect to COVID-19. When he was answering some of the questions during the Q&A session, he pointed out that the number one thing that is not allowing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, and the WHO to admit the importance of COVID-19 is just one thing: greed. And I said, wow. He said, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to say it's greed that's driving this numbness or blindness or silence from this institutions. He says it's poor leadership, absolutely poor leadership. And we're blaming the past president or the president for this problem. But, you know, the president is really an outsider, politically speaking. And the people that are entrenched in the systems of healthcare, they're not new. They're not novices. They're deeply entrenched in the system. And so they don't want anything else to happen. Now, as a doctor, if you're just hearing about ivermectin, then you're behind the times. I want us as doctors, particularly doctors, and if you have a doctor, let him listen to this video. We have a responsibility to our patients. The world has changed. And therefore, we can no longer rely on the CDC. It was the absence of information from the CDC that drove me to write the first book, the second book, and the third book. And I thought I was done. It seems I might have to do a bit pamphlet on how to actually judge clinical trials related to COVID, and maybe it can be used in the future for other clinical trials that you've come across in any publication. It might be. But particularly these clinical trials that are coming out with respect to COVID-19. But, you know, the first time you're hearing about ivermectin, if it's just recently, if it's in November, December, that's way too late. I published a book in September called The Hydroxychloroquine Debate. And in there, I mentioned that ivermectin in one particular study in Bangladesh was 100% effective. Now, if you're a doctor and you didn't even hear about ivermectin, you have not done your patients a good service. Don't beat yourself on the head. Just change your approach. You cannot rely on the New England Journal of Medicine. You have to look at their papers and look carefully. And when you look in those papers, analyze them. When you're done analyzing them, go to the bottom section. Go and look at the comments by experts in the field. Look at the letters to the editor, and you'll be surprised. They will help you with some of the analysis that you cannot do on your own. So on April 10th, the FDA sent a letter out to the public saying that people who are using ivermectin should not use it for COVID. So as far back as April 10, the FDA, the veterinary medicine section, wrote that letter to the public. So if you as a doctor did not know about ivermectin that a while ago, then you are behind. It means the patients know more than you. It's not okay anymore. We cannot trust the WHO anymore until they change how they're doing things. We cannot trust. And most people don't, except we are not being honest or we're just being lazy. None of us signed up for dishonesty. None of us signed up to be lazy. And patients are dying. For example, we have 113,000 plus patients in hospitals today, more than 27,000 of them in the intensive care unit, about 7,000 on ventilators. And we hear that about 1 in 8 hospitals don't have an ICU bed anymore. More than half of the counties in the US do not have an ICU to start off with. So listen, if you don't prescribe ivermectin, I have doctors that disagree with me on things that they feel they need to disagree with me upon, and they've admitted that they are taking ivermectin. So today, what is the goal? To vaccinate. 2 things I'll tell you about the vaccine, and a third one, which is not really good news. Number 1, the vaccine will not prevent you from spreading the infection. So if you get it, you might be protected, but even more importantly, it will not prevent you from spreading the infection. So I don't know why anybody will say, don't get on my plane if you don't have the vaccine. Number 2, if you get the vaccine manufacturers have no idea how long you'll be protected. Maybe you'll need a booster dose or a second dose or a third dose, in another few months. If you have to get a third dose or booster dose, you have to pay for it. So, and it's an expensive vaccine. But here we have a crisis. And I watched a news channel, and they're screaming that they invited a doctor there, and they invite all these doctors on this news media who are clueless about treatments. If the system is getting overwhelmed and there is a drug that within 24 to 72 hours can help patients resolve symptoms, we are at war with COVID pretty obviously, right? So what is the natural response? It would be to say, okay, keep on vaccinating, but let's start using vaccines. But unfortunately, you don't even hear Fauci say it, Redfield say it, and any of these other guys. They just sit down there. They don't care. They're not close to these patients. And they're saying, we don't even know whether they're taking ivermectin. So what I want to close today with is, please, if you really care about your patients and this profession, not only must you stop listening to just the news and telling patients to go home and sit down till they get worse and come back to the hospital to die or to be so sick that they end up with post-COVID symptoms, fatigue, joint pains, lung problems, hypertensive disorders that they didn't have before the cytokines flooded their system. And I've had all patients with all manner, even staff members in hospitals who have had all manner of these complications. If you don't want that to happen, the system of hospitalization is already getting cranked up and overwhelmed. So what's stopping the NIH from saying use ivermectin? They've killed hydroxychloroquine. We know it's useful in early, but ivermectin is useful even in hospitalized patients with almost 96, 95, 94% efficacy in the studies that have been reported so far. And the smart thing? Patients are taking ivermectin outside of prescriptions. So what do you lose? You don't lose anything. You actually are saving lives by writing ivermectin. 12 milligrams once a day. From the FLCCC study, they said day 1, 12 milligrams, day 3, 12 milligrams. Dr. Cavallo Hector in Buenos Aires in Argentina, he says 12 milligrams once a day for 5 days. Another study in Bangladesh is using 12 milligrams twice a day for 5 days. In other words, whether you give 2 doses, 5 doses, 10 doses, start ivermectin. 3.7 billion prescriptions worldwide are FDA approved for other conditions. And maybe what we're going to find out at the end of all this is that viruses can actually respond to parasitic agents. But because the people who wanted to make money off of vaccines are determined that they're going to make that $1 trillion, whatever it is, they're letting people die. This is criminal. And again, this is Dr. Kaxino Perry. Start doxycycline 100 milligrams twice a day and ivermectin 12 milligrams day 1, day 3. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.